Welcome to the Circle Academy, to the introduction on circular economy. So in this introduction we are going to show you what the circular economy means, what the environmental and business relevance of it is, and some examples of companies that are successful in the circular economy. So don't expect a full explanation of the circular economy or a definition that will hold forever, but at least a small introduction. So what is the circular economy? What is first relevant is to look at how we use resources at the moment. So if you see these graphs, you see that up to the 50s we had flat lines on the use of water, fishery that we exploit. And then from the 1950s onwards you see it growing rapidly. And when you see the projections up to 2050, you see that it's really growing exponential. And so when we keep on working like this, we will exhaust the planet in the very near future. So that's one argument. Another argument is on resource scarcity. So if you see this graph, it says how much resources are left if you are born in 2010. And so what you see is that it's not that many resources that are available. When you look at the small part of the bar, then you see the material that's available with the uses in 2010, but the white ones show how much will be available when you predict the growth of the resource usage. And then you see that energy, well, oil is available up to 2045, so that's not too long. And you can say, okay, we're going to a more sustainable, renewable energy production, but then you see that you need all the materials that are in green. And for instance, antimony is not available that much anymore for 2020 onwards, so there is resource scarcity. And what are then the consequences? Well, for instance, zinc is becoming scarce at the moment, and the first result is a price volatility. So the price of zinc has risen about 3 times in the last 3 years. So if you are a producer that uses zinc, you can have a challenge or a problem, because what to do with this higher price of your materials? Either you have to have higher prices for your end user, or you have to accept a reduced margin on your end product. Then another thing is on how long do we use all these materials in products. And so you here see the average lifetime of consumer products. And with the red parts you see that we use the consumer product for a smaller period of time. So we have less resources available and we use them for a smaller period of time. So that's in the opposite direction. Then the next thing what is important is to look at how we build up our linear economy. So this is what companies do. They add value and they do it here. So they first extract materials from the planet and they often don't leave the planet that neat after that. Then we put a lot of energy and labor to it in producing a product. Then there are some logistics and some sales in retail, and then you have the magic moment for every manufacturer, the moment of sales. You transfer the product and the responsibility of the product to the user and you get in all your money. And with a little bit of luck you never see your product back again. It is a little bit exaggerated, but that is how we have structured our linear economy. Then you have the usage phase, and in the usage phase the value of the product will go down. But then the user discards a product and you see a destruction of value, because the materials, the labor, the energy that is in the product will run down on the right side of this hill, and all the value in it will be destructed. So that is the linear economy. You can also look at this graph. So here you see a picture of the Philippines and you see that this guy is very happy with the goggles that he just found. But if you look at the beach you see a lot of pollution and all plastics that are there. And so this is not how we want to manage our planet. But there's also economic consequence of this, because if beaches are polluted then tourists will not come, and so there will be no tourist industry in countries like the Philippines. Another thing is on air pollution. So this is Beijing and you see a nice building of a Dutch architect, but you can hardly see it because of all the pollution. And you see that this guy has to wear a mask. So that's not good for his health, but there is also an economic consequence of this, because the average manufacturing facility in Beijing is closed down by the government for about 14 days a year. And so if you want full utilization of your production capacity, you there have a problem. So again, there's an environmental problem, but also economic problem. And so here you see the destruction of the planet. And so you can say, well, this is a very remote place, so who cares? but in the moment in the Netherlands we have a problem in Groningen where we have won a lot of gas in the recent 40 years, and there are significant earthquakes right now. So houses get demolished, and from public money we have to restore these houses. So again, you have an environmental challenge and an economic or societal challenge. So that's how we look at all this. So what can we do about it? And that's about value preservation, and that's when the circular economy comes in. So again, companies add a lot of value, but then they also have a connection with the product after the transaction moment. Not only with the product, but also with the user. And the first challenge is, how can we extend the usage of the product by repair or maintenance? So that's closing the first loop. Then, if the first user does not want to use the product anymore, can I reuse or redistribute the product? So sell it again to another user. If that's not possible, maybe you have to refurbish or remanufacture the product and then bring it back to retail. And then the mean of last resort is recycling. So you get out the materials, and what you see, you have run down the value hill on the right hand side, and you have to add a lot of energy and labor to it on the left hand side to make a product out of it again. But at least the material is not wasted because it's brought either to incineration or to landfill. So these are the solutions that can be brought in the circular economy. So these are graphs that are maybe more familiar to you because they are used by the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, but they say exactly the same. So circular economy is about value preservation from the moment of use and in the end of use phase. And here you see again the circles. So the intention of the circular economy is to have a closed loop, and then the closest loop that is be possible. So by reuse, refurbishing, remanufacturing, and in last resort recycling. And if you look in the EU, only 10% of the materials are now recycled. So 90% of the materials are either brought to landfill or incinerated. So there is a huge challenge from an environmental point of view. So are there companies successful, or at least working on the circular economy? Yes, there are. So this is the example of Puma. So they make this shoe, and it's not a normal shoe made of leather, but of renewable and biodegradable materials. So you can use the shoe for a long period of time, but when you discard it, then it will be composted. And so you see the result of it after 6 weeks, after 3 months, and after the Puma sign, you see that there is no shoe left anymore because it's degraded itself. Another example which I like very much is this. So this is a company that fishes out the copper cables that are on the Atlantic Ocean. So they are of no use anymore because they were used for telecommunications or other purposes, and they just fish them out, and they have a new life for the copper that they win. So that is also a very efficient way of reusing materials. You also have the access model. So this is for sharing, for the sharing economy. So a car on average is used only 8% of the time. So it's idle for 92% of the time. So can you share that car so that people only need one car and their neighbors can use it at the same time? So you're more efficient with materials, you have a higher utilization of the car, and so you need less cars. So there is the potential of sharing it. And so this Car2Go is in many major cities in Europe and is brought by Daimler-Benz, so by a car manufacturer that is then delivering the cars, but also the service for the sharing. And then the last example is on product as a service. So now you don't own the product anymore, but you only use the service. And this is an example of Philips, which is a big Dutch manufacturer of lighting, but they deliver lighting as a service. So they take care that your office space is then lighted all the time, and they take care of the energy bill, the maintenance of the product, but also at the end of life they get back the light bulb and they take care of a good disposal of that. So these are examples of companies that are working with it, and we have other presentations where we go more in depth on other examples and explain you how it works and what could be the benefit for you. So thank you for watching this presentation. We hope it gave you some inspiration and a first glance on the circular economy. And if you are a participant of the Circo track, then we will hand over to you circular business models and design strategies in other presentations, and we will work with it to make a circular proposition for you that makes sense from an environmental point of view and from a business point of view. Thank you for watching this presentation.